Here it is, the long-awaited DCS MiG-21 by Leatherneck Simulations. Thank you to Cobra for the early access, that was very cool indeed. I want to talk about a few things that I think are cool, and if you do too, I would recommend supporting these guys with a purchase, if it's your kind of thing. I'm going to start with a quick note on flight sims and which ones I like and why. So because this is what I do for a living, I'm not so interested in flying in FSX. But I am interested in flying with friends in DCS. One thing I really like is the systems management in the A10C module. Managing all the weapon systems and flying the aircraft and navigating and trying to talk if you're playing in multiplayer, all that stuff, it has a has a big effect on your mental capacity. And that, I think, is a much more accurate simulation of what flying is about and the difficulties of flying an aircraft than we really get from hands-on flying, because we don't get the same feedback through a sim. On the flip side of that, I really enjoy flying in the Huey. It's not something I expected to. I had no interest in it when it was announced, and when it came out, I gave it a shot. I really didn't know anything about helicopters, and I've learnt a lot since then. It probably took me like weeks until I could even land it. Now I'm really happy with it. I really enjoy flying it. And it's the opposite to the A10 for me. It's the actual stick and rudder inputs that make it interesting. Mainly because there's so many little inputs that you have to make, and it's just a constant hands-on process. I really like that. So the third one I'll talk about just very briefly is the SU-27 in Flaming Cliffs 3. Piqued my interest because it was a whole different set of systems. The RWR was totally different. A lot of the HUD displays are totally alien at first, and everything has a different ethos behind it. I suppose I assumed that everything would run almost similar to NATO aircraft, but it doesn't, and learning that has been fun. I mean, it's Flaming Cliffs, so there's not too much to learn. It's not a study sim, but it's been fun nonetheless. It is what it is. And now on to the MiG-21. I suppose as good a place as any to start is the cockpit. I'll admit this was the main thing that got me interested in the sim. The cockpit just looks beautiful. It's really detailed, switches galore, and all the associated systems behind it. It's going to be a pretty cool place to spend some time playing around. The takeoff is an interesting and fun event in the MiG. It's back to a good scan and some forethought rather than just pointing straight and then pulling at some point. It's essentially a two-stage takeoff with flaps and afterburner. I won't spoil the procedure any further than that. If you were to say that the MiG-21 can fly like a little rocket just because it looks like one, you'd be right. Now the low speed performance isn't actually as bad as you might assume. Naturally it's a delta wing aircraft, so a high angle attack is going to give it a large amount of induced drag. However, in the MiG-21 the high angle of attack also causes the aerodynamic centre of pressure to move forward, so this means that your pitch and yaw authority are actually still very good. Keep the ailerons neutral and use the rudder to initiate the roll. As you can see here, even at 400 kilometers an hour and below, the aircraft is still controllable through rudder roll and pitch. This turn right now is pretty benign, but even if we increase the rate, it still flies pretty nicely. So despite being originally designed for medium high altitude intercepts, US test pilots found that the MiG-21 could reliably beat even the F-15 in a low speed dogfight. On the upper end of the speed scale, you'll really notice the effects of the high wing sweep. High rate turns overload the wing very quickly, making things hard work, but there is a whole lot of fun involved at flying at the edge of this thing's envelope. Approach and landing comes in 3 flavours: too steep, too shallow, just right. There's a few things modelled into this module that I really like. Little touches that make flying the MiG just that bit more challenging. For example, the radar looks great and is believably janky to use, and it only works for 25 minutes. It even has some nice clutter features for terrain and weather. When the MiG stalls, it stalls quite hard. Don't forget that each time you raise the nose, that big old delta wing is creating all that induced drag. So if or when you do stall, don't forget to pitch for speed. Alternatively, you could adopt this technique. When the aircraft is loaded heavy, you can really feel the difference in the handling at the required thrust settings. And then when you do fire a weapon, it leaves behind some noticeable roll due to the imbalance. Pull too many Gs and your payload will fall off the aircraft, which is awkward. We get to play with an assortment of weapons to multi-roll things up with the MiG. There's bombs, rockets, air-to-air missiles of the IR and semi-active radar variety, a cannon that fires a long stream of rainbow, and these awesome air-to-ground missiles that you can fire at whatever your radar is locked to, or whatever your radar happens to be pointing at. I'm pretty sure they'll be the favourite weapon among a lot of players, including me. It's a fun one. So, the important question, should you buy this? Well, if you're after a module where the aircraft handling is challenging, then yes. If you're not turned off by doing a little bit of learning, bearing in mind that the manual is pretty decent and all the labelling is mainly done in English, then yes. If you're looking for an aircraft that offers some versatility, although with some low-tech limitations and loads of switches, then it's another yes. This video has just been observations of things that I like and enjoy about this module. If you're looking for more info, I'd recommend checking out the MiG-21 videos by Ralphie Dude, Frugal Sim, and Bunyap Sims. I've left some links in the description. To all of you watching this, sharing it, commenting, liking, etc., thank you, it's all very much appreciated, and a big cheers to the guys at Leatherneck for what I think is an excellent module.